a new facet of digital governance, that is digital social innovation, the new way of governance in new world order. And for that, we have eminent speakers with us. Let me welcome Shri B.K. Murthy, Senior Director and Group Head R&D, Minister of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY, Government of India. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. B.K. Murthy. We're also joined by Mr. B. Sundar, Special Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of Andhra Pradesh, for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Savik. Thank you.
We're also joined by Hemraj Barwa, Deputy Commissioner, District Kinnaur, Government of Himachal Pradesh. We welcome Hemrajji. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Sri George Kudivilla, CMD Basil. Thank you so much, Mr. George, for joining us today. With this, let me give a brief of what has happened today. From the morning, we started the inaugural at 10 a.m. and it lasted till 1 p.m. in the afternoon. We had the perspective from Secretary, Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs, Durga Shankar Mishra. We had a perspective from Secretary DST, Professor Ashutosh Sharma. We had a perspective from Secretary Defense, Dr. Ajay Kumar, Government of India. We had perspective from the state of Maharashtra, both Transport and Water Supply Department, and also perspective from Kerala. We were also joined by Satyajit Rajan, Additional CEO, Kerala Infrastructure Finance Board, and also by Dr. C.S. Kumar, Additional Secretary, Minister of Panchayat Raj, and also Dr. Neeta Verma, DGNIC, also joined us for the inaugural. And then we had a special address by Sonal Goel, Special Resident Commissioner, Tripura Bhavan, New Delhi. And now we have come to a very important session of APEC India Digital Empowerment Meet and Awards. It's a 3-day conference. First day focusing on governance, second day on healthcare, and third day on education. And we're having more than 100 plus speakers in the span of 3 days. With this, let me come to Dr. B.K. Murthy, Senior Director from MeitY, Government of India. Dr. Murthy, your thoughts on digital social innovation, the new way of governance in new world order. Your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Savik. I will just briefly talk about the ecosystem for the digital transformation, digital innovation, that as a MeitY from the Ministry of Electronics IIT, and how we are enabling and creating the ecosystem. That I will be talking about various facets of digital India, pillars that we are talking about, and how this has laid foundation for the innovation and then fostering innovation and for the digital economy. That's what I'm just sharing some few slides on this. Just 10 minutes I will talk about this. Let me share the screen. Yeah, this screen is visible?
Yes.
Yeah, fine. So I will be talking about ecosystem for digital transformation and then what is the MeitY as an enabler. So the digital disruption is an opportunity and no more a threat. We would like to encash this and exploit these emerging technologies, and MeitY creates an ecosystem for digital transformation. So for the digital India, as you were aware that there are 3 pillars. One is digital infrastructure, on-demand digital services, and digital empowerment. These are the 3 pillars for Digital India program. And digital infrastructure, you are aware that Aadhaar is the largest database across the globe. We have more than 128 crore populations of digital identity stored in this, and National Supercomputing Mission, and Megharaj Cloud, and then hyperscale data centers that we are planning, and this policy that we are coming out. And UPI Beam for digital payment creates an ecosystem for digital payments and then transactions online. And National Knowledge Network, which is providing connectivity, the second avatar of NKN, which we are talking about, Digital India Infoway, a mother network of all the networks, and which will provide and connect all the government departments, central government and state government, and other schools, colleges across the country can be connected through sectoral networks to the National Knowledge Network and Digital India Infoway, which we would like to set up. So digital services, yes, we are having already through GEM. It is like an Amazon for GEM. And Umang services are 477 central services are there. Hospital information system, 268 hospitals are integrated with HIMS. And ETAL, around all the government transactions, around 20 crore daily transactions are being done through the online transactions mode. And we have the ENAM, and other applications. E-District is there, and then soil health cards are being generated, and DigiLocker is for holding all your documents. These are some of the digital services. And digital empowerment, yes, we have on mobile, on tip of a button of your mobile, you can get all the government services at your fingertips. The certificates or banking or the telehealth or many more of such applications, or all these things are available. And nowadays, even the COVID applications is also available on the mobile. And Pradhan Mantri Gram Digital PMG Disha, Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Yojana, it provides a digital literacy to all the people, households. Around 6 crore households have been selected for this purpose. So Digital India Infoway, as I mentioned, that is a network of networks connecting all the polices. It has two parts basically: national government network and national research education network. The national government network connects all the central government departments, national data centers, state data centers, and then sectoral networks and the remote locations. Over a period of 10 years, we are planning for 30 lakh nodes across the country, and we will facilitate the complete thing and collecting all the polices, all the police stations, all the schools, polytechnic colleges, universities, and educational department, public health centers, and all these things. And the public digital platform will be created for various applications. Like agriculture alone, there are 26 applications are working in silos. We would like to put them all the single sign-on and a single platform, single architecture, India architecture, and then apply on top of it data analytics and artificial intelligence and geospatial, geofencing, all these things that we can do it. And we can have a digitized land records and soil health cards, and crop selection can be done using analytics, and seeds and fertilizers and subsidies will be given to the farmers. All these things will become, all the government agencies and schemes will be on a single platform where a single sign-on will be facilitated for these purposes. So similarly, National Digital Highway, because various government departments are developing various applications, we wanted to bring in and have a common gateway for all these things, data sharing mechanism, API sharing mechanism between these two applications, so that one person who has applied for one government department need not apply for another details, submitting all the copies, and then eKYC can be verified there. All these documents are available in the digital locker. We can take it just by indicating your digital locker name and identity. So that is where we are planning to have, so that you can have in identity and KYC from one place, and academic services and financial services, health services from all the different departments. You can combine and then put it in one place. And for a user, it is a seamless way from one department to other department. Migration also is possible, and your application can be transferred from one application to one department to other department. So that for a citizen, whether you are dealing with the education department or a finance department or an employment department, you will have a same feel and that touch and feel, and then same environment you will be facing, and you don't have to submit repeated number of applications or your documents. That is a major area. And another thing, to boost the electronic manufacturing in the country, we have come out with a lot of schemes. And even in the pandemic, IT department is the only one, and IT industry has is the common platform for across all the economies and all the different business and other activities in the country. IT department and IT industry put them alive, and all the activities are being done through IT. So in order to promote that, we have come out during the pandemic itself the electronic manufacturing schemes, electronics and system design manufacturing, and electronics clusters, and LCD, LED TV manufacturing. MSIPS is another program, and electronics development fund has been created. Mobile handsets and mobile manufacturing and manufacturing of laptops and TVs, all those things are created in an ecosystem has been created for electronic manufacturing. And to boost the electronic manufacturing in this country, we have come out with the PLI scheme, Production Linked Insurance Scheme, for providing some of the incentives to the manufacturers in the country who wanted to set up large manufacturing bases in the country, like Samsung and other people have come up. Lava is another one, Foxconn is another one. Like that, many of the companies have come up, And scheme for production of manufacturing electronic components. This is another big thing that is coming out. There will be very nearly the components will be scarce. So in order to boost that component industry, also a scheme has been come out. And modified electronic manufacturing clusters are also have been set up in these schemes. And emerging technologies, another one, AI, blockchain, and AR, VR, robotics, and others. We have a major program on national program on artificial intelligence, and national strategy on blockchain paper has been released. And then we are designing India stack for the blockchain for various e-governance application. And then blockchain as a service will be provided to the common man. And center of excellences have been set up to boost the startups in these emerging technologies, which has high agility in AI, blockchain, analytics, and IoT, and VI, ER, VR, all those things, and UX, VX, and other things. Param Siddhi is another supercomputer, which has been developed as a 63rd among the top 500 most powerful supercomputers in the world. It has around 5.26 petaflops of this one peak one, and it has been ranked 63rd among the top 500 computers in the world. And national program in AI, it has a core centers of excellence and moonshot projects, and Indian centers for transformational AI. That means large data sets are made available by anonymizing, and then it will be given using for data analytics and providing the AI and other algorithms on top of it for better citizen services. Airavat is another one that providing a common infrastructure for the AI programs across the country. So emerging technology centers of excellence are being created in this. AI and blockchain and drones and analytics are being developed. On top of it, it provides each center of excellence will provide an incubation center and mentorship facility, acceleration, industry connect, and innovation labs and investor connect. All these things are possible using this. STPI is driving with this, and many industry partners are also participating in this. Yes, digital confidence is another one. A country of this nature, when we are going everything online, trust and security and transparency is very important. Transparency, trust, and security. For that, we are building our own blockchain stack, and data protection laws. PDP bill is now on the anvil. It will be discussed in the parliament. And national cyber security strategy has come out. Strengthen the certain and sectoral sets, and NCC and NCCC, National Cyber Security Coordination Division, is being set up. And enhance cyber security in the government ICT infrastructure is another important thing. Indigenous cyber security and software products, and all these will provide a trust and then cyber security assurance as a framework for the nation. Now, need for a unified blockchain framework. To architect a unified blockchain, a country of this nature, we need any e-governance application for providing trust and transparency. We need to have a complete India stack is required, and it should be scalable enough for large scale applications of millions of records, which will be there. Millions and billions of transactions will be available for each of these applications. So demonstrate to evolve a unified blockchain framework, and also all the existing applications and services like DigiLocker, eSign, ePraman, all those things will be onboarded and then plugged very easily. Integration could be done very easily. That is the main idea of this India stack. And technology stack with open APIs for easy onboarding of application. Whoever has developed can contribute to this India stack. So this is the complete picture of India stack, where we'll be having a base infrastructure located in 4 or 5 locations, and also in the bottom side, and we will create different stacks for property chain for land records and then properties, health chain for health records, and then supply chain management for the logistics, and then education, and then electronic and semiconductor chain, public distribution systems, and other chains for each of the government applications. We can create this. And on top of it, different applications are there, Hyperledger or Sawtooth for Hyperledger, or different ledgers, wherever the components are there and wherever the protocols have been developed, best practices are collected, and the whole stack will appear as a loosely coupled one by taking the best best of the products and best of the components from various developers, and we will do our own R&D. This will be done by various industries and academy and R&D organizations across the country. We have identified right now 7 institutions. Other institutions will also be onboarded, and all these research components will be integrated by CDAC and NIC put together, and NIC will come out of 2 reference implementation for certificate and academic qualification verification and supply chain management for the drugs and consumables and other things, and switches and other pharmaceutical equipment. So for a large scale, at least a statewide application reference implementation will be done in this, and it will be given, provided as a service to other organizations, and whoever has contributed to that as a revenue sharing model, we will be working as a Team India basis. This India stack will come out. So digital inclusion is another one, where in India, where there are a lot of languages are there, and 22 officially recognized, constitutionally recognized languages are there. So language technology is a predominant in India for doing a lot of e-commerce applications. And anyone who is having this language, one language to other language, speech to speech, and other things are there. And also inclusivity, the young people, how they can use the online platform, that is another major thing that we are working on. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thank you so much, Dr. B.K. Murthy, for sharing with us your thoughts on or the roadmap by MIT for the digital enablement of the entire thing, the scheme of things, be it using emerging technology, be it pillar of digital India, be it blockchain stack, everything we have mentioned, and that's a comprehensive PPT, I must say, which talks about the various aspects of digital empowerment, digital transformation, which Government of India is thinking of how to do it, how to go about it. It's all there. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We've been joined by a very special guest, Palka Sahani, Resident Commissioner, Bihar Bhavan, New Delhi. We'll have a short video message from her. Can we play that on screen, because she has some urgent meeting, she cannot join live, so she has recorded and sent it to us. So maybe we can play it for once now.
19 in its nucleus, which has revolutionized the digital social space. Today, India is on the threshold of enormous socio-economic transformation, typified by rapid growth. The Government of India has made a quantum leap in its digital metamorphosis by partnering with private players to create connected solutions that enhance social, environmental, and economic values for its citizens. India is among the top 3 global economies in terms of digital consumers and the progress the country has made towards becoming digitally competitive. Poised to become a country with 1 billion digital users by 2030, India will create more value by nurturing new and emerging digital ecosystems in key sectors such as education, financial services, manufacturing, energy, and access solutions include e-governance across domains such as e-education, e-healthcare, agriculture, and more. It is a conducive environment for businesses to come forward and partner with the government to co-create connected solutions, social innovation business solutions that blend advanced operational technology and information technology will usher in a new era of advancement. As Niti Aayog states in its vision document, Strategy for India at 75, sector-specific and governance enhancement. A deeper look at some key sectors provide insights into how social business solutions using advanced technologies are introducing incremental value. While cash still remains the favored mode of transactions, particularly in semi-urban and rural India, digital payments are fast gaining preference. This ostensibly got boost from the government's demonetization initiative to the subsequent introduction of UPI and other payment solutions. Backed by OT and IT, artificial intelligence, and advanced data analytics, India's payment infrastructure is progressing rapidly. In February 2021, the RBI issued new guidelines for digital payment security controls. These rules will have implications not only for regulated banks, but also for third-party payment applications such as Google Pay, WhatsApp Pay, and PhonePe, and how they interact and store consumer data. With increasing digital financial literacy reaching semi-urban and rural areas, Indians across the economic spectrum will have multiple options to choose from. Technology poised to transform education. Delivery of education is a sector where government is ushering through unprecedented changes. Technology is being utilized to facilitate real-time tracking of students' holistic development so that necessary support can be initiated whenever needed. How this digital approach magnified the pace of relief and assistance during the lockdown in the country. Bihar's example. To provide immediate and direct beneficial relief to migrants stranded across Bihar and outside Bihar, the government of Bihar provided monetary assistance via the Bihar Corona Tatkal Sahayata mobile app. This app-based platform gave assistance for direct benefit transfer to around 1.9 million migrant laborers of Bihar. Bihar Bhavan sent out SMSs to more than 74,000 of such migrant laborers to the Department of Disaster Management of Bihar. The COVID-19 app. The hit COVID-19 app, an innovative home isolation tracking app we developed to keep an eye on the condition of COVID patients recuperating in their homes, drew special praise from the Honorable Prime Minister of India. It helped reach out to coronavirus patients undergoing treatment for the infection under home isolation. These are learnings of how to bridge the digital divide. Digital inclusion is expected to open a new world of knowledge, information, and opportunities, going beyond the JAM Trinity. What started as a simple step to kick off the JAM Trinity today empowers the entire vaccination drive for COVID in the country, making India only second to the nation of USA that has administered 20 crore vaccines. Tech solutions empowered by Digital India, that is the infrastructure for years together, today serve as a basis for other emerging interventions in the field of startups, digital education, seamless banking, and payment solutions, agri-tech, smart cities, e-governance, and retail management, to name a few. In fact, India faced the pandemic as an empowered nation that operated digitally in every arena throughout the lockdown period to keep the growth talk clicking. It would not have been possible without the dream of the Honorable Prime Minister, who said, "For me, IT plus IT is equals to IT," or as he elaborated, Indian talent plus information technology is equals to India tomorrow. Digital India, followed by Digital Village, has successfully bridged the gap between Bharat and India, enabling the country to weave into a dream for tomorrow, where technology can be used and accessed by all. As the platform of digital governance and related infrastructure shapes up the public service of the country, private businesses, which were already transforming themselves by imbibing technology to remain relevant, thrive. The speed at which India accelerated into tech-enabled platforms for office meetings, school entertainment, games, food and shopping during the pandemic-led lockdown is a combined result of public internet access program, information for all, and a plethora of accessible hardware. Government across the country are leveraging rapid digitization to achieve the transformation in the education system, supporting the structured knowledge base for children. Given the emergence of digital technologies, this pilot policy for online education, furthering digital infrastructure, developing online teaching platforms and tools, in addition to addressing the digital divide via virtual labs and providing training and incentives for teachers. Social innovation will drive the new era in manufacturing. India is already embracing emerging technologies in manufacturing. Social innovation that fuses OT with IT is bound to further revolutionize the sector through the application of advanced technologies, including those associated with Internet of Things, big data, and AI, towards a greener, safer, and smarter living. By 2050, India's population is expected to grow to 1.7 billion, adding 900 million Indians. This implies that urban infrastructure needs to grow by 400% to keep the pace with demand. The government's thrust on Digital India and Make in India initiatives are moving the predominantly agrarian economy into an IT-based industrial and commercial one. This country needs to build sustainable urban infrastructure that promotes greener, safer, and smarter living. In a recent budget speech, the finance minister indicated that in order to boost urban infrastructure, Metrolite and Metro, new technologies will be deployed to build metro rail systems in two-tier cities and the peripheral areas of tier 1 cities, which will ensure last mile connectivity for millions of people traveling through these two modes of transformation. To enable safer and comfortable intercity travel, we require advanced solutions for railway rolling design and manufacture, operations management, monitoring and control, information services, and maintenance. This, in addition to electric vehicle technologies, will help realize a more sustainable mode of transformation. Future tech, building bridges between the real and the virtual world. The Internet of Things has accelerated co creation between companies and helped create new value. However, to fully leverage the vast potential of new and innovative services, we will need to combine data with physical operations. As enterprises and governments join hands with social sustainability, long term development, we anticipate evolutionary and forward looking solutions being introduced, constructed on the principles of information, interaction, transaction, transformation. Technology will evolve and use cases that we can derive from them are perhaps yet unthought of. It will underpin most solutions that are designed for a connected citizen lifecycle ecosystem. Thank you.
That was Palka Sahani, Resident Commissioner, Bihar Bhavan, New Delhi, for wonderfully giving insights on her vision or digital transformation in the country, digital empowerment in the country, and also how digital social innovation can be rewritten in India in the new world order. That was Palka Sahani. Thank you so much. With this, we move to Mr. Hemraj Bairwa, Deputy Commissioner Kinnaur from Himachal Pradesh. Hemraj, can you hear us? I think some network issue. Let's have a perspective from Mr. B. Sundar, Special Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Mr. Sundar, your thoughts on digital social innovation, the new way of governance in new world order. What are your thoughts on that?
Good afternoon, APAC, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this. When I first saw the subject, it was quite interesting, and I thought whether IT has any role to play in this digital social innovation. And on reflection, yes, it does have a lot of role to play, at least in the way innovation has been architected in our state of AP, because the Andhra Pradesh Innovation Society, the Andhra Pradesh Information Technology Academy, and the International Institute of Digital Technologies, all three academic institutions, one way or the other, they, with a focus on IT and with a focus on innovations, they are housed under the Information Technology and Electronics and Communication Department. So that means we are thinking of innovation, especially social innovation, as differentiable from technological innovation, social innovation to be driven by IT. And here, I would like to first point out the major constraints. When we talk about social innovation, it essentially comes from our entrepreneurs, and they are sadly a highly neglected lot. Whether we like it or not, the success rate of entrepreneurship in contemporary societies, whether it is in the first world or the third world, it ranges between 3 to 8%. That means out of 100 businesses, between 3 and 8 manage to sustain themselves beyond year 3. And most of them either flop, either due to lack of patronage, lack of financial resources, or faulty design thinking. So in this scenario, what has social innovation as a concept has anything to do with it? Will can the IT department or the government as a whole do something to help social innovation? Why is social innovation important after all? Well, that is an important question. uh, there are several schools of thought, and one school of thought which economists like is that innovations, they they fuel commercial successes and the advancement of civilizations. To a large extent, it is correct, because innovations have driven many path-breaking, human relevant, uh, and cost-cutting appliances. And when we talk about social innovations from this angle, innovations are required. We have to somehow find a systematic way for helping our entrepreneurs to bring about social innovation. And if you can loop in IT and telecommunications, so much the better. And what role can IT department play in this? Here I have listed out 3 to 4 areas where IT can really help nurture social innovation. For the first and the most important one being reliable IT infrastructure in the form of internet bandwidth. Why I am stressing on bandwidth is, as I am speaking to you now, and as I have repeated in many forums like this, only 43%, at least in our state of AP, are having the benefit of internet. That means to say, 60 to 61% of our population who are living in the rural interside have no advantages, have no connectivity, and therefore are bereft of the advantages of internet connection. So, the first task, which may seem mundane and may seem primarily not connected with innovation, but nevertheless very important, is internet bandwidth. And to put a metric on what I really mean to say is, every village, we have 17,500 villages in our state. Every village should have at least one center which is capable of having 20 Mbps of internet bandwidth, because this bandwidth is required for meaningful email communication, for meaningful downloading and uploading of images, and meaningful interaction with government websites. So once this data is made available to the, why should you always think that innovation, especially social innovation, should come only from the urban lot? It may not happen, because we have a lot of talent, a lot of students who are studying in the rural countryside, and these people have to be brought under the. So with this vision, what our state has did, we have started the Gram Sachivalayams in all the Gram Panchayats. And here, of course, the internet bandwidth which we have provided is only enough for basic services. You have enough, only you have a terminal or a two for the workers to dispense citizen services. But what is the need of our is, you should have a high-end digital library which will be attractive enough for students. The NEP also talks about coding instructions to students from 6 to 10. The reason being, they want to nurture innovation from that level. So if you are able to give them an attractive, high-end digital library with access to resources, most of them are open sourced. They do not cost as much except the basic infrastructure. Then we would have gone a long way. The government at least would have gone a long way in enabling the population towards social innovation. This is the second aspect which I wanted to stress is, once an innovation comes about, what else can we do? The entrepreneur requires hand-holding in setting up his company or her company or startup, needs space, needs resources like accountants and lawyers to help them through the registration parts, and of course, access to venture and capitalist funding. That is a different story, but at least these mundane and important tasks should be looked after by the government at the most basic level. If these two are taken care of, then I am quite confident that the other uh, the other aspects of innovation, which is internal to a person. Okay? Innovation, it is not possible by every person. It comes only due to innate ability of the person. So the innate ability is fired. There is a institutional mechanism in the form of digital libraries, in the form of handholding by the government to take the entrepreneur, and at least if it is a worthy idea capable of getting in some revenues and sustainability, innovation can be sustained. So that way, a modest percentage, a modest target of at least making 20 out of 100 successes in the next decade will be a quite a daunting task for a government in a third world like us. And ultimately,
Right.
do I have time? I have. I just want to conclude.
Maybe a minute or so.
Yeah, I, and and how this helps the overall country and the that is a important point, because all of us are interested. After all these innovations, what next? Look, innovations like this, they have a, apart from increasing the capital, social capital, it will also help us in, at least from the IT perspective, it will help us in climbing up the uh, e-government rankings. Sadly, we are somewhere in the rank of 120 out of 165 in the Committee of United Nations. So if you are able to at least move into double-digit figures, it will be a achievable and a mentionable record. So with these words, I thank you all to giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. B. Sundar, Special Secretary, Department of Electronics and IT, Government of Andhra Pradesh. And taking cue from what you have said, I was just Googling and I found a quote on digital social innovation and technology. It says that innovation does not equal social good, but social good can be accelerated by innovation, provided that purpose is at the heart of that innovation. I think it goes aligned with your thoughts as well. Thank you so much, Bisunda. With this, we come to a very important speaker of this session. We have with us George Kuduvilla, Chairman and Managing Director, Broadcast Engineering Consultants India Limited, known as BASIL, a PSU under Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India. Mr. Kuduvilla, your take on digital social innovation, the new way of governance in new world order. Things have changed rapidly in last 1.5 years, and things are going to change again rapidly next 1 year or so. How do you see the role of governance or the new uh, avatar of governance in the digital social innovation sector?
Good afternoon, everybody, and this is my great pleasure to be part of this seminar. I'm really excited to be talking on this subject, because this is something which is the need of the hour, and we all are part of that ecosystem. Being a public sector unit in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, our focus always had been towards the media. So when we talk about digital social innovation, I will throw a little light towards the media part of it, the innovations and the challenges, and the governance part on the part of the Government of India, and the the departments which are concerned about the social governance part of it. So when we talk about the innovations that has happened, everybody can see, and today there is what we call as citizen through the social media. There is we can say citizen journalists are there. So practically anywhere, if anywhere across the country, any citizen, including a teenager or a youth, they have this opportunity that if they would like to say something which about their part, or about anything they are concerned about, any social change, anything, what is their thought, what is their heart, what is bothering them, what is that they would like to talk to the people of the country or to the government, they have this ability through the social media to record their video or audio, and link it wherever the nearest Wi-Fi, or through the Wi-Fi at home, into the social media, and it reaches millions and millions of people. And this enables them not only the journalist part of it, the culture part of it, whether it is a song, whether it is playing of an instrument, whether it's some kind of dance, which is a local dance, or ability, which is very special, they can post it onto the social media. And this innovation that has happened in the digital media, that has enabled people that even with a small bandwidth, they are able to upload their videos, their audios into the social media. And sometimes we find that there is such a large hidden talent across the country, and they get the opportunity to come into the mainstream. People recognize them and appreciate them. If there's something special ability with any person who is uploading that video or audio, and this has empowered a common man. It's has empowered people across the spectrum, whether rich or poor, whether from remote area, from the central, urban or rural, or any strata of people. It has empowered them to speak out what or do what they would love to, and to showcase it, and it will be seen across all social media domain. We, being part of information broadcasting, has been setting up command and control for different government departments, including our information broadcasting ministry. And always it is, both the monitoring as well as the response part of it. And this is one good way, through which government of India is able to talk to its own citizen in the areas of the area the particular department is, to reach out to the people to tell and say what we are doing, and how we are helping the last mile citizen, or what are the facilities, or what are the availability for a common citizen to avail from their department and use the resources, or the special the government has done the special arrangements for the different sections of society. On the other side, when it comes to the governments, it has also thrown up big challenges. So this innovation in different social media using sectors, this has thrown up challenge in terms of there is a big threat of fake news for whatever purposes. We sometimes even do not understand why people need to post those fake news, but definitely there are forces behind, which sometimes try to disrupt the social fabric of the country, or something which will disturb the national security. It is such a powerful tool that it can actually, a small clip of audio or video, actually can destroy the you can say the reputation of a person or an institution, just by something which has been posted into this domain of digital social media. And that is the biggest challenge today that we are facing. And we as a public sector has become an interface that we, using the technology innovations, how we can track the fake news, how we can help out in controlling, or in kind of bringing out, or sending a red alert for anything that is concerning this. So we have been always constantly looking at the technologies that can do such kind of activity, which whereby we can have a monitoring mechanism for the good governance of different institutions. Also, a lot has happened in the language localization. I would say that there are when we looked a few years back, maybe 4-5 years back, we didn't have a company in this country which was involved in the language translation. And this has been the thrust of our honorable Prime Minister, Government of India, that people should be given the education in their local language and the facilities in their local language, so that poor people who do not understand any other language than their mother tongue are able to get benefit from all the education, all the other facilities of Government of India. And so I'm so happy that over this last few years, a lot of Indian companies have started working on language localization. We have been working with some companies which are doing a special work for the video localization of the lectures which are delivered by eminent professors for different subjects, including engineering subjects, like from IITs and IIMs. And I see that as to be a very powerful tool, how the language localization can help common citizen to avail of the eminent lectures of professors, using this digital technology. So, in such a, the development that has happened is that from speech to text, if you have a translation machine that can convert an engine, and then text to text kind of a platform that can translate, let's say, from English, into Hindi or to Gujarati or to Marathi. And then thereafter, this text can be further given the voice to get it, spoken in the respective Gujarati language or Malayalam or whichever language that we intend to. This kind of end-to-end platforms are being developed, and we are we are working with such kind of technologies. This will really help the country to reaching out the best of the the lectures or the best of the audio and video to the last mile, and connecting the people of the state in their local language. They can study and learn and be benefited. This has been the thrust of our honorable Prime Minister, and we are associated, or we are involved in an activity that can help this kind of a translation. Also, very important today is the media asset management, as our eminent speakers have spoken before. It's the media asset management. That is whatever we see in the social domain, in the media domain, in the social innovation domain, whatever the content is available, how to filter out what is necessary or important, and to store them, retrieve them, store them, and to use this, for later on for building up the data, which will help us in different areas. And in such kind of scenario, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, all this comes into play. The innovative technologies which are working, which are able to call out an information that we would want from stored data over a period of years, and that helps in curating the content which is intended, which we intend to take out from such a asset which is stored. So a lot of development has happened, how we can store large content in a small space or small storage. So such kind of development has happened, and this is paving the new way for governance and new world order. I think this will be the future, the audio video and the governance of the social innovations on one side, and the management and governance on the other side. So thank you very much for the time given to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sri George Kuruvilla, CMD BASIL, for sharing with us on digital social innovation in terms of media and social media management, and how some of the technological advancement has happened in India itself in terms of language localization and all those things, and use of emerging technology as well. With this, we come to the end of this session on digital social innovation, the new way of governance and new world order. I thank Dr. B.K. Murthy, Ms. Palka Sahani, Hemraj Bairwa, B. Sundar, and George Kuruvilla for joining us for this session.